Welcome back. You're still watching Nile Cruise, and for the first segment of the program, we'll be speaking more about the celebration of the 30th of June anniversary and the revolution which took place in 2013 on the 30th of June, as mass protests took to the streets of Egypt to protest against the Brotherhood terrorist organization president back then, Mohammed Morsi, who had ruled the country for 1 year, causing deterioration in all walks of life here in Egypt. 4 or 5 years ago, Egypt was going through the economic turmoil affected by a recession in tourism and investment, which are the main sources of the foreign currency here in the country. In 2014, the ailing economic condition prompted new president back then, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, to think of new sources of revenue to help reducing the growing budget deficit, which recorded 12% of the GDP in 2013-2014. President al-Sisi had launched a number of national projects, of which many have started operating, while the others are still underway, and we'll be seeing more of them in the upcoming 4 years, in the second tenure of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. To be speaking more about the economic conditions in comparison to 2013 and with the Brotherhood terrorist organization rule in 2013, I'm honored to be having with me on the program today Professor Dr. Sayyid Al-Khouly, the Professor of Economics and the former Dean of the Faculty of Management and Business Administration at Ain Shams University. Thank you very much, Dr. Said, for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sayed, and of course, welcome with us. First of all, of course, definitely, as Ahmed mentioned, that the 30th of June revolution was the rebirth of Egypt with the will of the Egyptian and its armed forces to oust the ruling symbols of the Muslim Brotherhood and to start the new development of Egypt, for development. And of course, as Ahmed mentioned, we had many mega projects, including, of course, when we mentioned the first project which was launched, which was the Suez Canal zone and the introduction of investments into Egypt once again. So how do you see these, the beginnings of the new Egypt, recalling together and going back in time?
Absolutely. First of all, I would like to congratulate all Egyptians for June 30 revolution, which celebrate its fifth years right now. And in the last 4 years, there is a lot of mega projects, as you mentioned, have been done, and the future is coming. The bright future is coming for Egypt. Remember, as a management professor, for any change, there is always a resistance to change. The change it happened 4 years ago with the mega project, as you mentioned, Suez Canal, and many projects regarding the power and regarding the infrastructure for many new roads in Egypt. And all of this done in the last 4 years. The future is coming where all this gain from these last 4 years, it will show up in the next 4 years. And starting with the new report from Oxford Global Business, which shows a lot of development it will be happening in Egypt, where we are ahead of the schedule from the World Bank, for example. They expect us the growth rate will be 3.5. Now we are 4.5 and more, which it means we are going in our direction for the new development. We suffer, yes, we suffer, and the Egyptian people will suffer, but the future is coming. It's a bright future. Remember, there are a lot of forces against Egypt, whether it's internally or externally. Among these forces is the media, for example. In Facebook and all these social media, there is a driving force to minimize what we have done in Egypt in the last 4 years. This resistance, it's really, it's not going to be successful, because I'm counting for the Egyptian people. The Egyptian people who are suffered in 1967, in 1973, they are able to overcome all this difficulty and difficult time, the economic tide we have right now, but the future is coming from Egypt. inshallah.
Yes, if we can focus on the Suez Canal Economic Zone, how do you see the results and the outcomes of such a project in the upcoming 4 years and in the near future as well?
Remember, it was a problem with the global trade in general, where the global trade, it is in the recent year, it's a slow, it start to go downtrend. But the new direction for the Suez Canal, which is really, we are going to build by the size of the Suez Canal, the global logistic area where a lot of industry will invest in Egypt. And this investment, it will show not in industry, we cannot, the return on investment, it doesn't come overnight. It doesn't come in 1 year or 2 years. It takes time in order to show the result of this kind of development. I believe not the Suez Canal, but the logistic area associated with the Suez Canal, it will show a lot of economic development, a lot of business will be in Egypt, and already a lot of international companies invested in this area, and the result is coming very soon.
Well, Doctor, also it's not just the Suez Canal. We have so many mega projects working on the infrastructure and on the power. And when we talk about investment, definitely we need to talk about energy and power. So we have a variety of projects. We have the Daba underway. We have, of course, the Binban solar park. We have a variety of power projects as well throughout the country. So the significance of it and the importance, we have the Zohr field as well of such important supplies of energy for Egypt and its reflection on investment and the economy.
As investor, let's talk about, I'm talking not internal investment, foreign investment.
Yes.
Why we should invest in a country. There is 3 pillars for investing. Number 1, infrastructure. And when we talk about infrastructure, we talk about roads, for example, as you mentioned, the Daba Road, which it is a huge road where we build it from Cairo to Daba. And remember, when you build the road, there is 2 sides of the road, left and right of the road. And that's development. Let's go to United States of America, for example. They started their development with building infrastructure in terms of road, railways, and so on. And society built a side of these roads. That's one. Another thing, which is the power supply. I come to invest in factories and industry and so on, so I need a power supply. And that's what have been done in the last 4 years. We have a lot of power, energy, increased now the capacity of energy in Egypt. Remember, 4 or 5 years ago, we use half of the time, we have power shortage, for example. And we suffer from that. Now we don't have this problem right now. Even so, yesterday, for example, the temperature was 47.5, and nobody suffered from that. So power supply, it's another attraction for investment in Egypt. The third one is the regulation. Remember, there is an investment law which it really facilitates the investment procedures for any investor to come in Egypt. And instead of taking 6 months or 8 months in order to license your business, now it takes days and hours. And that is very important. So infrastructure, power supply, and the procedures, which already we issued the investment law and implemented right now. And this is facilitate to attract foreign direct investment to Egypt. And again, the future is coming. We build the infrastructure, and remember, we have a lot of forces. Remember, all the tourist activity in Sinai, it disappeared right now. And another issue, which the manpower in Egypt, which we have almost over 60% of our population, it is focused on youth. And that is the power supply, the human resource. It's very important.
Yes. What about the new administrative capital? In 2015, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi launched the establishment process of the new administrative capital. How do you see the importance of building a new capital here in Egypt?
We need a lot of capital, for example. We live in about 10% of the geography from Egypt. So during Sadat, for example, they built Sadat city and many other cities, Al-Ashir, Ramadan, and so on. During Mubarak regime, we built a new city, for example, October, Ubur, and all of that. And we need more than that, not only the capital city, many other cities in Alexandria, in east of Egypt, in south of Egypt, and so on. That is minimize the traffic in Cairo. Cairo now, it is a lot of traffic in this area, and the investor, in order to come to Egypt, they have to manage their time very well. And so my belief, we need more new. I know in the media, they attacking the new capital and so on, but that is to build a new society in this area. It's very essential for the future of Egypt.
Doctor, during the conversation now with us, you said the youth and investing on the youth. And that's one of the things that the President is really paying attention to, whether by launching several youth conferences domestically or the international youth conference that took place, and especially the PLP program, which is the presidential leadership program as well. So how do you see that and the importance of such programs and for developing the youth and creating another cadre who is well equipped and capable of leading?
In order to face the future, we need new skills. We need new knowledge. And President Sisi, for example, started that about 3-4 years ago, I remember, when he launched the Knowledge Bank, for example.
Yes.
What's Knowledge Bank? It is really an information source open for all different sources all over the world. And that is for education and for educating our youth in public schools, in public universities, and so on. Let's find a few weeks ago, before Ramadan, President Sisi issued a committee for training and building a new competency and new skills for our youth. And we have an executive committee directed by President Sisi right now, and that it happened like a month ago. That's the implementation stage. Started with the conference with youth to see what their problem, what their needs, and what they have in their mind, and then they started implementing now. Now they implemented by issuing a presidential order to have a committee where they have now able to train this youth for the required skills for the future. Remember, in Egypt, we are the lowest paid per hour all over the world. And we can use that as our competitive edge because we have a lot of population, we have a big population, and we can use it as our competitive edge in the future, inshallah.
In the field of agriculture in 2015, President Sisi also launched a project to be reclaiming 1.5 million fedans here in the country. How do you think this would be important for the future of the country, not just the present?
We are not a real estate. Remember, in the past, we were focusing on real estate. In order to improve economy, the Egyptian economy as a whole, we have to focus in industry, we have to focus in tourism, we have to focus in agriculture at the same time. And there is an old saying, if you cannot afford to feed your people from what your agriculture provide, you cannot survive. So investment in agriculture, it's a huge step for the future of Egypt again. When we talk about 1.5 million acres in Egypt, it started already with Shar el-Awainat, for example, in Shalatin and so on. That is a plan. And I remember when you look for Egypt Vision 2030, all of these plans established 4 years ago, and now they are in the implementation stage. And remember, when you have a large area, which is 1.5 million acres, it will be added to the Egyptian agriculture sector. It will add value for the future. And we started to see prices for our agricultural product start to get down, and at the same time, the exporting from agriculture is very important. Remember, we cannot talk about agriculture without talking about water. Remember, we have a problem right now with the negotiation with the Ethiopian people regarding Nahda things, which become...
But I think that there is no problem right now after the visit of the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed.
It's not settled until now, but
Yes.
the future is promising.
But
not
he,
a
they
problem, yeah.
promised. He promised
Yes.
that actually
He
it will
sweared,
be
yeah.
based on
Okay.
mutual benefit, and he said that Egypt will never be harmed. And such statement will never come from the PM unless he has taken these words from his cabinet and the government. So definitely we're on the right track when it comes to that. I'd like to move to another topic, and that is the African dimension, because of course with the revolution we had the Egypt was suspended from the AU, but President Sisi, with his efforts, he returned us again, and even we're heading the next summit. So, how do you see the economic cooperation between African countries?
Africa is a promising land when it comes to agriculture, for example, and we have to build our relationship with the African nation in the principle of win-win situation. With Ethiopia, for example, as you mentioned, it should be win-win situation. They win and we win at the same time. Having a relationship with the African nation, as I mentioned before, it is the virgin continent in the whole world is Africa. There is no a huge investment in Africa, and to build a relationship with African nation in terms of agriculture, in terms of education, and we called for that 20 years ago and nobody listened. And we shall build bridges between Egypt and all African nations. There is a huge development in Africa, and we should benefit in public policy from this agreement in the future.
Professor Dr. Said Al-Khouly, the Professor of Economics and the former Dean of the Faculty of Management and Business Administration at Ain Shams University. Thank you very much for being with us today on Nile Cruise.
Thank you, and again, I'm going to end with the future of Egypt is coming, and such a promising future. We passed a lot of difficulty before, and the Egyptian people, they are able to overcome any difficulty in the future. But it needs help between society and the government.
Yes.
One hand, you cannot clap. We have to have united Egypt again, inshallah.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much, Doctor. And now we'll be going to a quick break, but we'll be back for more on Nile Cruise. So stay with us.